Well, welcome seafood lovers and the seafood industry at large. Thank you for joining the QSMA's Sundown series, episode 5. And we have a very, very special one for you today. We've got the launch of the Great Australian Seafood Campaign, and we've got Veronica Papacosta and Jonno Duniam with us to launch it. So sit back, relax, and I will hand you over to the dulcet tones of Patrick Hone from the FRDC and welcome you all to this, the 5th of our Sundown sessions. Just if you would like to comment or ask any questions on the way through, type it in the chat button, the little speech balloon that you'll see on your Zoom window. We'll be able to read those questions, and then towards the end we'll have a Q&A. So without further ado, here's Patrick Hone from the FRDC for the Sundown Sessions 5.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for everyone who's tuned in today. I must admit, I've always wanted to say this for an Australian first. And not only that, not just an Australian first, something that many of us have dreamed about and today is a reality. We're going to talk about the most amazing thing, which is the Great Australian Seafood Easy As marketing campaign. We've got two amazing people to talk to us about it. First of all, to the two people who made it happen, Veronica and Jonno, congratulations. For everyone who's getting ready to strap in and listen to hear what we're going to talk about today, hold on to your seats, because Veronica's promised to really dazzle and make us really want to eat more seafood after this. I just want to make sure that we are very clear that this was funded by the Australian government for the COVID-19 $1 billion relief and recovery fund. And, you know, like many people, we are very supportive of what the government has done during COVID. And this is just another great example about how we're working to make sure that the seafood industry comes through COVID, not just comes through, but comes out even stronger. So with that, I'm going to pass over to you, Assistant Minister. Jonno, all over to you. Cheers.
Well, thanks, Patrick. It is good to be with you, and thank you for that kind introduction. It's good to see Veronica and so many other representatives of this robust, dynamic and, I say, world-leading seafood industry. It is always great to work with SIA, and ever since I took over the reins from a federal point of view of the fisheries portfolio, SIA has just been absolutely critical in the work that I've done. And, you know, we are talking about the campaign that was launched yesterday, which I think is an excellent one. But while the taxpayers of Australia have funded it, yes, sure, we did our bit in my office in partnership with industry, and I know with support from people like you, Patrick, and others as well, to get the bid up. It was something that was driven by industry. And so I do really want to pay tribute to SIA and its members, the industry it represents, because this is something that industry said was needed, and that's why we've done it. You know, look, no one can deny that this industry was the first and worst hit when it came to COVID. I mean, when the lockdown was taking effect in China, in Wuhan, and we saw our exports more or less stop in many respects overnight, particularly as we're heading into Lunar New Year, we knew that there was trouble afoot. And so this industry across the board, right across the country, has really done it tough, both with the downturn in trade, with the lack of capacity to get goods to market for an extended period, given nearly all of our freight goes to our export destinations in the belly of passenger aircraft, and 90% of those stopped flying during COVID. And I found the Freight Assistance Program was excellent in that respect, but domestically, consumption dropped off a cliff too. Restaurants, cafes, eateries, they all were shut down for an extended period because of our COVID restrictions. So that was bad news for the fishermen and women of our country, and particularly for the regional communities that they largely work out of. And that was something that was of great concern to me. So this campaign to get Australians to get more seafood into their diet, to when they're doing their weekly shop or picking up what they're going to be having in their family menu for the week, we wanted to make sure that they invested in what is one of the most healthy and tasty types of protein out there, and that was seafood. And so this campaign, which has been designed by industry for to drive that consumption, I think is going to go a great way in driving that domestic demand. Yesterday, down on the waterfront here in Hobart, I was able to stand with Will Muir, who's a great ambassador for our industry down here, but also nationally. He was singing the praises of a campaign that it's exactly what industry needed at this time, particularly with so much uncertainty around. We know that other commodities do have terrific campaigns. Other protein sources have terrific campaigns to generate demand in their areas. So this was about making sure that Australians choose Australian seafood. It is the best best managed set of fisheries in the world. It is healthy, it is tasty, and we can't see a reason why people won't see this ad and head down to their fishmonger, their supermarket, and support this great industry and the more than 40,000 people who rely on this industry for their employment to be able to pay their mortgages and put their kids through school and put food on the table themselves. So again, I commend the industry, SIA, and all its partners in developing this campaign. I've had very positive feedback already from those who've seen the ad, and we'll be doing everything we can to promote it across the country. But look, this is just the start of what we're going to need to do to rebuild this industry. I know that. I think everyone here knows that. There's a lot more work to be done. We have to be dynamic. We have to think outside the square. And we also need to do as much as we can with as little as we can. Resources are finite when it comes to taxpayers' money, but we have to use it wisely. And I know those in business understand that especially well. So I look forward to your guidance, but happy to engage in whatever way industry see fit. But I'll leave my remarks there and perhaps hand back to you, Patrick.
Well, I'm not going to say a lot because I'm going to pass straight on to you, Veronica. And I think Jess is your able manager of all your slides. So go for it, Veronica.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Minister, for your very kind words. I have to say that you and your team are exceptionally generous with your time and your efforts for the industry, and that does not go unnoticed. It's very much appreciated, and that's for SIA and for everyone else that you work with across the industry. So thank you very much. It's not often that we get such a champion, and we really appreciate it. And thank you, Patrick, for setting me up for the pressure of having a dazzling presentation. That's always good. Thank you so much. And thanks, Jess, for helping me drive this. And thank you to QSMA for offering us this opportunity. The Sundown sessions have been wonderful, and it was very exciting for us to be able to come along and present and use this as a launch. So thanks, Ben. Thanks to the QSMA team and to the FRDC. So today I actually wanted to spend some time taking you through our Great Australian Seafood Marketing campaign. And it's not just a campaign, it's been a journey, quite a quick journey for Jess and I in terms of this process, but a very long journey for industry, as Patrick alluded to. There has been a lot of work and a lot of interest and a lot of desire for a national marketing campaign from the industry and from a lot of other people that have worked very tirelessly in the industry for a long time. So, I mean, my dreams of a national marketing campaign have burned in me for a very long time. I'm also a third generation retailer. So I've often lamented every time I see a pork ad or a beef ad, I lamented publicly and privately at the absence of a national identity for seafood and also for a national marketing campaign. And lots of people have tried, but as is usual, crisis brought around opportunity. As we said, the seafood industry was hit first and hardest by the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our food service and our marketing, our export markets crashed. The entire supply chain was out to sea on how this would impact our business, and it was a really hairy few months. So the campaign came about when Jess and I had a bit of an idea. We had a really good conversation with Minister Duniam and his team. And as usual, they picked up an idea and they absolutely ran with it. And they put a lot of effort into pushing the Eat Seafood Australia proposal, which was what the proposal was originally called, pushing that into action and pushing it all the way through the not easy process of getting through to the $1 billion COVID-19 Recovery Relief Fund. So we do really appreciate that effort. To be honest, we weren't sure of how this would go. We weren't sure of the success that we would have, and it is a tribute to Minister Duniam's office that they got this through. It was well beyond our expectation. So the guidelines of the funding grant was actually to create a 12-month marketing campaign using the full services of a full-service creative and media agency, and around June to have this campaign live by the end of October. So with the funding announcement at around the end of June, we officially had 4 months to move a marketing mountain. So it was no mean feat. We were often told that it just wasn't going to be possible, but that wasn't an option. It had to happen. So our first job in this process was to secure the services of the best full service agency we could find for this job. We put a call out to the agency world, and we received over 20 submissions from agencies who were really keen and super charged to be involved. Everybody understood everybody understood the weight of that campaign. So it was a very energetic first round. So Jess and I shortlisted through a series of interviews, and we turned our list of 20 into 5 agencies. And we asked those 5 agencies to enter into a competitive pitch process. So in normal circumstances, we would give an agency maybe 4 to 6 weeks to prepare a pitch and a strategy. We gave our agencies 2 weeks, so they had to get cracking. We also knew that the choice of agency was critically important. So to make sure we made the best choice, we enlisted the help of some of the seafood industry's best marketing minds. Carolyn Hounsell of Tassal, Taryn Richards of Humpty Doo Barramundi, and John Sussman of Fishtails. And we called ourselves the ESA Advisory Group. So Carolyn, Taryn and John had a thorough knowledge of consumer behaviours, supply chain dynamics, brand building, and the attributes of the Australian seafood as a protein. And so we very much thank them for their help and their time. They sat through a lot of hours of competitive pitches. So we also had to compile a creative brief document for the agencies to pitch against. The brief that we had volumes of industry research on consumer attitudes and behaviours. Thank you to everyone who contributed to that. And that just reinforced to us the amount of work that had gone into understanding the challenges for Australian seafood and increasing consumption. So we were very lucky to have that such a broad database of information to be able to provide to the agencies. So we also went for 2 weeks to create their pitch, and they came back. And so the advisory group, we sat through 5 3-hour presentations, I think, to say the least. And at the end of the process, the choice for us all felt very clear. So Clemenger BBDO Sydney, we felt had not only understood the brief, but it also applied their experience and their understanding of the media and creative landscape to create a strategy that had humour, but also cut through. And that was most likely to achieve our campaign and our industry goals. So just to give you a bit of an insight of what we saw at that point, Jess is going to run what we call the original pitch video. And this is what helped Clemenger's capture our attention and ultimately the contract. So let's roll this intro pitch video, Jess.
Australia, let's talk about what makes us uniquely us. Our laid-back, easygoing nature. Who else would hit the surf before a big meeting? Think nothing of going shopping in our swimwear. Hell, even our activewear isn't very active. We never use a full name when a nickname will do.
Gaza, Jezza, Robert, Warney, Dynamite.
In fact, we'll pretty much shorten every word we can.
Swimming costume,
Cozzy,
mosquito,
Mozzie,
tracksuit pants,
Tracking Down.
Our politicians are chilled. Our celebrities, laid back. And our sports stars couldn't give a f***.
Sweating like a gypsy with a mortgage, actually.
And when it comes to food, well, I think this bloke said it best.
And there's plenty of shrimps on the bar.
Easy. It's what makes us Aussies, Aussies.
So you can see that we had come out really connecting back to what we felt would be a really good cut-through, humorous process, a way of moving forward. So the top-line strategy for us was to celebrate the Aussie culture, our laid-back nature, and what makes us Aussies. We'd also invoke some nostalgia by bringing back the era of Paul Hogan throwing another shrimp on the barbie. So that last marketing campaign had a lot of longevity for us. Jess and I still found ourselves referring to it in media releases. So we wanted to bring some of that nostalgia back. And in advertising worlds, it's either laughs or tears that sells. So in this campaign, we wanted to combine the nostalgia and the humour for a winning combination. We also heard that sex sells, but we took a guess that that's not a campaign the federal government would have been happy about funding. So we left that there for future years. So then we turned our attention to the call to action. And the research that the industry had carried out over the last few decades told us that Australian consumers really rated Australian seafood as versatile, tasty and healthy, but that the biggest barrier to increasing consumption was the perception that seafood was hard to cook, that there was a general fear of failure when it came to handling and preparing seafood. So we really needed to combat that, which is where Clemenger and SIA came up with the tagline, and also a well-known Aussieism, which was easy as. So easy as is more than just a tagline and a slogan. It needs to be an absolute truth. Easy as needed to permeate through the entire campaign, from the look and feel of the TV commercial to the music that we used, the messaging, the style of photography, right down to the recipes that we've created, which where necessary will tell you to buy a store-bought green curry or a coleslaw mix to go with your seafood meal, to take seafood, to make the seafood the hero of the meal and make everything else easy as. So that's where we brought in the easy as slogan, and we think we've done a reasonably good job of keeping that going right through the campaign. So during our strategic planning sessions, we then got to a point where we realised we were about to create a ton of goodwill in the Australian seafood brand, but where would that goodwill go? SIA is a fantastic organisation, I do say, but it wasn't the brand that we needed to build. And it became apparent that the Australian seafood industry needed a unique brand in which to keep all its goodwill. So we set about finding a unique identifier that captured the essence of the Australian seafood market and also had a relatable feel. So we looked across to other proteins and other sectors and even other countries, things like true Australian beef and 100% pure New Zealand. And these things were all very effective and ownable for those brands. I think it's hard to count probably for Jess and I how many hours we spent working on this and how many words we went through, but we always came back to Great Australian Seafood as the best fit for purpose brand for the market and for the industry. We think it's solid and we think it's ownable. I'm known in closer circles as the Queen of IP. So we produced this fantastic logo, which is on your screen now, called Great Australian Seafood. And we've trademarked the word and the logo. So that was the first job that the lawyers were set on to doing. So we're very proud to have been successful in that and also to have a brand that we can confidently move forward on behalf of industry. The other aspect to the logo, which I just want to mention here, but lots more information will come soon to industry, is that we're investigating embedding a traceability program into our logo. Here's just an example that we've put up on the screen of turning the actual logo picture into a QR code that can actually link through to a sector by sector or an industry-wide traceability program. So we're talking to a number of suppliers at the moment, and we're looking forward to bringing more information to the industry soon. But we think traceability is definitely an area that the industry needs to look into and move forward to. I'm getting good nods from FIDC there, that's great. So you have this idea, you have this name, but that's not enough. So then you have to think about who are we actually speaking to and how are we going to do this? So let's talk about the demographics for a moment. We wanted maximum impact. To do that, we wanted to talk primarily to people who were already eating seafood. So we're looking at increasing seafood consumption. We weren't looking for people that were anti-seafood. So we wanted people who had already included seafood in their diet to increase the consumption of what they were doing. We weren't looking to challenge the ethos behind vegan diets. So we were very clear in terms of the market and the type of people we were looking to approach. We also, through the campaign, wanted to touch as many consumers as possible. So we chose to focus on 3 key markets or 3 key demographics. One being empty nesters, who are defined as whose children have grown and left the home. They have time and they have resources to be a little bit more adventurous in their entertaining choices. We also wanted to target families. So helping families to get more seafood onto the family table, which we had identified from the research as being quite challenging for some parents. And finally, a really top market for seafood, which is sinks and dinks. So single and dual income, no children families. So these people tend to be busier with work and social life pressures, and they need an easy and fast, healthy meal. So they were our 3 target markets in terms of the campaign. If we pick up more, that's fantastic, but a lot of what you'll see in our creative is targeted to those 3 markets. So how do we make all this happen? So what we needed to do was decide on the kind of assets that we needed to create. And to decide on the assets, you need to decide on the channels that you're going to use. So going for maximum reach and retargeted messaging, which means lots of consistent messaging to our target consumers. We chose a TV commercial So TVCs going out to metro and regional stations, pay TV, on demand, and catch-up TV, and also YouTube. So a very broad brush in terms of our TV commercial channels. We're looking at out of home, which is billboards, bus stops. We'll show you a little bit more about that in situ in a minute. Even proximity marketing. So as you're walking up to your local supermarket, there'll be just outside, there's advertising space that we've been taking that will actually be just that final trigger point before you go in, before consumers go in to do their shopping. Social media, obviously a really big element. We'll show you some of the videos we've created. Digital partnerships. So things like BuzzFeed and Tasty, who have a huge reach. You don't have as much creative control here, but they have a huge reach in terms of consumers. So we've linked across and entered into some partnerships with them. Also, the Great Australian Seafood website, which we've created, SIA is working through and interacting with the marketing campaign. Most importantly, and not just because I'm a retailer, but independent seafood retailers in Australia do really well. They punch above their weight in terms of sales across the country. So a point of sale and an independent retailer activation program was central to this campaign. So we have posters and recipe cards that will go to over 400 retailers across the country. So that was our media strategy package. And I think we're at a really nice point now where I can start showing you some fun creative and we can get interactive. So that was all the thinking that went into it. Please throw some questions into Q&A and we'll have a look. We'll have a look at those towards the end. But if we can just jump into some creative, I think it's really the fun part of the whole process. So first up, TV commercials. Sorry, Jess. TV commercials. This is a really important time for the industry to use our money wisely. TV commercials are very expensive to make, even more expensive to book media for. So we couldn't let this opportunity go astray. So it's front and center, it's top line messaging for the campaign. It brings together all the things in the strategy that we talked about. We've produced 3 different commercials, a 45-second, which you're about to watch. We also have a cut down version, which is 30 seconds. That's just cheaper, basically. So 2 different formats is great. We also have a 15-second, and that takes a more focused approach on the food and the barbecue setting that you will see. And it's also a reminder of the full message to increase your brand awareness without the spend on the 45 or the 30. So these are all things we thought about to make sure that we got as much value out of this campaign as possible. So Jess is going to run, let's watch a couple of commercials and then we'll come back and talk about TVCs a bit more.
Australia. There's one thing we're experts in. It's easy. We make names easier. Daz, Shaz, mate. And when it comes to an easy feed, we experted that ages ago. Hey, Hoax. G'day, boys. Hello. Just some of those prawns, please. You beauty. Hooroo, guys. Bye. Beep. Beep. So why do we fall to pieces when it comes to seafood? There's nothing to it. You can barbie a barra, sear some snapper, or open up some oysters. So come on, Australia, let's eat more seafood. It's easy as. Australia, eating more seafood, nice, is as easy as throwing together the perfect plate. Oh, love it. While reversing an esky. Come on, cheers. See, easy as, but need a few more. Thanks, mate.
So there are TVCs. Wow, for the amount of work that we know went into that, it just all goes too quickly. But so there are TVCs bringing together our strategy of Ben, our lead actor, who actually didn't even need to act very much. He was laid back, he was cash, he was very Aussie, and just had a great time shooting the commercial. And we got in as much of our beautiful seafood in an environment that people would be used to consuming their seafood as possible. So our TV commercials will be running from November, so starting yesterday, right through to January. So that's picking up our Christmas peak season and a nice summer season. Then there'll be a rest until March, from March through to May. So we'll coincide with the Easter season and then send it off through into winter. So the rest of the creative that we're going to run through now is very much a consistency across the 12-month campaign. The TVCs, because of the cost and because of the way that it's best to use TVCs. We will step in and out of the market at those peak times. So we're looking for, like Minister Duniam and Jess, I think we've circulated some info through the SAA channels. We've already had some good feedback from some experts. So the Masters of Spin through Sunrise have already come back saying that they think it's a great positioning of the ad, and it's hard to get, they can be quite brutal, so it's hard to get the thumbs up there. So we're really pleased that we seem to be getting some initial really good feedback, which is great. Okay, so rest of the campaign. What we needed to do was start building assets that obviously we would build on right through the 12 months and right for the industry. So we're also looking at everything we've done through this campaign. We've been thinking about years 2, 3, 4, and 5. And how industry can come together and use the assets that have been created in this 12 months right through to leverage off and make it better. So obviously SIA will be in contact with a lot of our different sectors, businesses and members about making that happen. Where we needed to start with it was with our 12 key visuals. So we had to pick, there is hundreds of species, but we had to pick our top 12 to communicate and create the basis of future campaigns. So what we needed to do was decide on those species. We also needed to decide on the photography style. So Jess has just brought up on the screen and she's just running through so you can have a look at the style. So what you need to see with the photography was that we kept things beautiful but not overly styled. It needed to feel achievable at home. It needed to be tasty and inviting, but not something that you really thought you needed to be a top chef to achieve. That also ties into the types of recipes. So all of these key images are supported by recipes that are easy as. So achievable was necessary. We couldn't do anything that we thought would actually take people too far out of their comfort zone. So we're really proud of the style of photography. We really think it fits. So once you take your key messages, you actually then have to add the messaging. So what we've got in part of the advertisement, like we said before, part of the media rollout is billboards, posters, and proximity advertising, so just outside of your supermarkets. The messaging was really important. We spent hours on this as well. So the messaging had to underpin the easy as and also bring in some fun and refer back to funny observations and those Aussieisms again that we all experience when we're either entertaining or cooking or thinking about what to cook. So up on the screen is one of our favourite sayings, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. That was just picking up on something that we know. Actually, Jess's 6-year-old son loves that saying, but it also fits really well with that easy, the easy as moniker. We also brought up something like abalone, which wouldn't be very familiar to a lot of people, and talked about how it was easier to cook than to spell. Sorry, Jess, go back to the prawn. Here we have the hardest part is filling the gas bottle every 6 months. And the reason we just think that referred back to the fact that sometimes you get everything ready, go outside to start cooking and, oh, the gas bottle. So we just wanted to keep the conversation and the tone fun, playful and easy. Oysters were a great one. So easy they serve themselves. We really enjoyed that kind of easy messaging where it just fits with the brand. The other thing to note about the messaging is we've given you some examples here, but there is different layers. So there is ability messaging, motivation messaging, and trigger messaging. And we use different messages depending on where people will interact with the message and what we actually want them to do. So those trigger messages are the ones as you're walking into the supermarket or into the fishmongers, just reminding you that you really should swap over to seafood or think about seafood for your dinner meal. So there's a whole progression below that is very exciting. So what we've also got is some in situ posters just to show you how some of these messages will look in billboards. So this is your average everyday bus stop, and there we'll have our fantastic imagery with our fun and interactive messaging. So there will be billboards with proximity, as we said, and lots of we will actually have some information if anybody's interested about where a lot of these will be situated once the confirmations are in. And we're happy to share those so that you can find one near you, but very exciting. And as we catch one, we'll obviously be sharing it through SIA circles. Moving on to retailer activation. So as I said, the next step for the process in terms of rolling out the campaign was when I arrive at my fishmongers, how do we invoke the campaign? How do we bring it right through to the point of sale? Independent retailers, like I said, are fantastic in this country and work very hard. And they are used to fantastic point of sale material like Love Australia Prawn creates. And there are other brands that create lots of good point of sale. So we wanted to add to that range so that customers had the most options they could. So out of our 12 key visuals, we actually created 12 recipes, but also 12 recipe cards, and that's what's on your screen now. So in the next week, our independent retailer database, they'll receive posters, they'll receive recipe cards free of charge, and they'll be able to hand those out to customers. So we've taken them from the top line TVC right through to the retail chain, the retail outlet, which is very exciting. And what we've done on these retail cards is we've offered tips and tricks about that particular seafood. We've definitely focused the recipe on what people need to do to prepare the seafood. So for instance, we've got some fantastic barramundi tacos. We don't have that visual. It comes with a coleslaw, but rather than sitting there and cooking coleslaw, focus on getting your fish right in these easy steps and just buy a store-bought coleslaw if you don't have the time. Buy some mayo. That's not the hero of the dish. The hero is the barramundi. With our prawns, you can eat that shell. You can get your fishmonger to cut this for you. So we've really focused on the prepping of the seafood and asked customers to lean on their fishmongers to help with cleaning and preparation, just like they would their local butcher. So again, increasing the relationship and the confidence of the consumers with the seafood. So no campaign is complete without really strong social content and social media. So what we've done here, this is some more, we get to watch a few more videos here. So what we've done is we've created 3 targeted social media videos that are aimed at the 3 consumer segments that we mentioned before. So empty nester, sinks and dinks, and families. And we've used products that we feel would be most suitable for those segments. And Jess has got some to roll. Following the social content videos, Jess is going to show you some Instagram stories. So these are interactive stories that we would put through a particular channel like Instagram. I think they're also suitable for Facebook. And they are around salmon and oyster. So let's roll the tape, Jess.
If you want an easy way to impress your lunch guests, try my easy as barbecue squid with garlic butter. It is a real showstopper, and they don't have to know how easy it is. Delicious.
Getting some goodness into the kids is as easy as coating some white fish in breadcrumbs, then baking them in the oven for a few minutes. Then chuck them in a sandwich with some lettuce and tartare.
Sauce, please.
When you're home late from work, you don't want to spend hours in the kitchen. You want something quick, like my easy as after-work prawn stir-fry. Everything goes in the wok, and Bob's your uncle. It's seriously tasty. Easy as.
So every one of the videos has a recipe that you are led to. Every one of them is supported with actual content that shows that what we're doing is easy as. So, and again, what you can see is that we're building this huge database of assets that can be shared across social media sites through sectors, through SIA, through other associations. It's all easy as, which is fantastic. I find myself saying that phrase way too much actually at the moment, but it's very catchy. So we're really proud of the social media content that just takes that activation of the brand that step further. So really exciting. And then again, more recipes. So more recipes that will actually be found further through in the campaign. So once you're in the social media in the digital space, there's a couple of other things that we've created. So we've created some advertising. So when you're across websites like BuzzFeed and Taste as paid advertising, will be shown, and it's not editorial comment. This is actually space that we're paying for. You'll see banners like on the screen, just going back to our same messaging, that retargeting and actually having some motion and allowing people to click through to the recipes that underpin them. So at all times, making it about accessibility. Picking up on Meat Free Monday here and just having a dig at the other proteins just quickly. And I think we've got one more version. So this is our platter here, which is really beautiful and just in time for Christmas. So there's also a little bit of positioning that we'll have around Christmas and Easter with different products. Okay, so partnerships. So like I said, once we're in the digital space, we wanted to take maximum value out of this. So we have another 6 recipes that have been created by people like BuzzFeed. And BuzzFeed and Tasty, we didn't have as much creative control here, but we know they have exceptionally high cut through. So they've created recipes for our product, for our seafood, that they will push through their networks. And they have huge cut through. Taste.com, which is a News Corp company, has a magazine and a digital presence. And they've agreed for Australian seafood to call out the provenance of the product that they're listing. So we're getting a front page in the January edition of Taste.com, which is huge. And they will actually be, rather than saying prawns, which is their usual, they will be saying Australian prawns. So that's really exciting for us and will have a massive impact and cut through for industry. And finally, this all comes back to our Great Australian Seafood website, which is now live and has been launched. And we're really excited about, oh, sorry, Jess, I'm sorry about that. We're going to show you a BuzzFeed video that actually has been created by BuzzFeed for the industry. Sorry, Jess. Great, thanks, Jess. So there's 6 recipes, all with their own videos, fantastic stuff. So we're really happy with the value that we're getting out of our digital partnerships. Then we get to our Great Australian Seafood website, which Jess and her website creator have worked really hard on. It's live now. We definitely think you should go and have a look. It's fantastic. Some of the important elements we're really proud of with the website are the fish finder. So people can jump on, have a look and find their closest retailer or actual fish and chip provider. So we've gone with both. So we've gone for retail and fish and chips, calling out food service where we can. Also a very big recipe database, lots of, and actually fantastic support from the industry in terms of coming across and giving and sharing their assets and providing support for this website and for the industry as a whole. So we're really thankful for that. We've also taken an opportunity to show our pledge on behalf of the industry, and also the SAFS app that was created and supported by the FRDC. So there's a nod to sustainability, a nod to our commitment to the industry, and obviously the practical elements. We've also had one sneaky page for all our SIA business and association members, just to give everybody a bit of a shout out, because our SIA members are the leaders of the industry and they support a lot of this ongoing work. So we thank them very much. So these are all our fantastic creative assets. And we're very proud of them. We think it all works under the strategic banner, and I'm looking forward to some feedback and some discussion with you. What it all comes, when you get to the end of that process, you think, well, okay, this all looks great and it all sounds great, but how do we know that we've succeeded? How do we know that we have used the money to the funding to its full potential and gotten the maximum benefit for the industry. We've engaged a company called Hall & Partners who do a lot of federal government evaluation and measurement. And they have actually already completed, so pre-campaign, completed an initial DIP, which is a baseline survey on consumer sentiment. So we went, before we start the program, we go to the cross-section of the community and ask them how they feel on different elements. We do have a report coming soon that we will happily share on some keynote ideas around what's come out of that baseline survey. So that gives us the 0.0, and the FID and the scientists in the room will love this, gives us our statistic base for where we've started. Through the campaign, we will do 2 dips into that survey. So we'll dip in February and then July, and then have a final report at the end of the campaign. So we are looking for how top line are we, how much better have people interacted with the seafood, how successful has this campaign been for the average consumer. So we're very much looking forward to that measurement. And that ability to evaluate. So Hall & Partners have got they've laid a fantastic groundwork there for us. So we're very excited about that. And obviously to be able to go back to government and show them a job well done. So the other work that's happening in addition to this is the national sector marketing. Oh, sorry, partners. Sorry, Jess. Just on the screen is a few of the people that we've worked with on this process. So obviously we have Clemengers, who were the overriding agency partner, but they work with a few different agencies and photographers there in terms of, and just bringing in the best people. And you can also see Glue Society, who were the TV producers for the TVC. I just want to make one more mention of our national sector marketing group. And that is SIA is actually calling out for expressions of interest in the next few days. To establish our national sector marketing group. And what we want to do with that group is actually discuss how we extend this fantastic 12-month campaign beyond into years 2 and 5. And that's the industry involvement that we need to get every sector marketing and supporting its products so that we can actually create our style of national marketing campaign beyond this 12 months. That's a lot of information, and I want to take an opportunity to answer some questions. But I also want to send out my thanks again to Minister Duniam and his team, to the entire coalition government, to the FRDC for their support, and also to all the people in the industry who've actually worked very hard on trying to get a marketing campaign up. The efforts did not go to waste. We've finally gotten there as an industry, which is very exciting. And it is, as always, a team effort. And one final thank you to Jessica McInerney, who I think is meant to work 3 days a week, but has been working 7 for as long as I can remember, for the last 3 to 4 months. So thank you very much, Jess. Your energy, you are a communications powerhouse, so thank you. And I will hand over back to Patrick, who will find us some interesting questions to answer.
So I don't know about you, Jonno, but that's got my stomach rumbling. All that amazing seafood. And I noticed Kaz is online, so I've reached for my great Australian abalone beer. What more could you drink while you're listening to all that seafood? But Jonno, just maybe a couple of comments before we go to questions.
Oh, look, as I say, I mean, I think you pointed out, Patrick, and certainly Veronica echoed, it's the first national seafood marketing campaign we've seen, which is a great step in the right direction to sort of bring this entire food group and this industry together to drive consumption. I think the collateral that I've seen there, that material that's going to be able to be used not just now, but for an extended period of time. And, I think industry is going to want to build on this over time to keep the momentum up. I really am very pleased with what I see there. As I say, the feedback I've had so far is fantastic from members of industry, but also just basic community feedback, people reaching out saying, oh, you've got something to do with fish, haven't you? I saw that ad the other day. It looked pretty good, kind of thing. So high level of commendation all round. I think it's good stuff, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results that it delivers. Particularly now, we really need this shot in the arm.
So, Veronica, let's go to the question. So, Kaz, and I think many people want to know, how do you get the collaterals? How do you get involved? What's the answer?
So SIA is pulling together a package and a licensing agreement. And when I say a licensing agreement, it's purely to make sure that we want to act as brand guardians, to make sure that we keep the brand and the tone and the messaging very clear and succinct. So as a protection for the industry. But having said that, we want to push it as far and wide across the industry as we can. So we've gotten to the point where our baby's out and it's out in the world, and now we need to start getting down to the bricks and mortars with the industry. So we're absolutely, please send us a message to indicate your interest to info@Seafood Industry Australia. That's my dog that keeps trying to escape to get into the room. If you can hear that scratching, apologies. Yeah, please send us an email to info@Seafood Industry Australia to indicate interest, and we'll come back to you really soon and start talking about how we make that happen.
Thanks, Veronica. And Jess, maybe you could drop the email link in the chat for us. So the next question that we've got is, and we've got lots of interest coming out there. The market research, how can we capture, are you going to capture both consumers and those that make the household food purchasing decision? So are you looking at both sides in terms of that market research? This is a question from Marcia.
Yeah, so look, we didn't have time in this particular campaign to create our own research. We definitely relied on what was there. If you mean the evaluation process during, we're looking at all elements. So we're looking at where they purchase their seafood before, during and after. We're looking at how many times a week they wanted to eat seafood and if that increased over the life of the program. And we're looking at their feelings towards Australian seafood in all aspects, so sustainability, health, and ease of use. So we want to see some movement on all of those areas. So we're making it as extensive as we can.
Okay. And so the next question, the use of the actual logo, which you've trademarked, very clever. How do people use it? Is it free? Is it a license agreement? What's the arrangement?
So I think what we've felt so far from industry is that all the needs are different. So we definitely want to make the logo move as far and wide. We want to have some protections in place to ensure that it stays in a similar tone. But we're working with different sectors to help understand what they're actually looking for. We're not looking to make money out of it. We just need to do some protection. But we want to know, we want to have a better understanding of how the industry are going to invest their money as well. So we will talk about the positioning and the rollout of that in the coming weeks.
So I suppose the corollary of that question, Veronica, is if someone's got an existing product which they market or promote, how can they value add using the Great Australian Seafood campaign?
Well, firstly, they can use the logo, and we want the logo to have international and domestic applications. So we know that for some of our sectors, they actually want something that gives them a presence internationally at trade shows or on their packaging, on their actual product. And domestically, it may have some different applications and be more fitted to the supply chain. We are very flexible. So what we wanted to create was a brand for the Australian seafood industry and be able to use it respecting the versatility and the differences between the sectors. I just need to open this door. This dog won't go away. Give me a minute.
She's back.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. They're two very adorable cavoodles, but they're persistent. They won't stop.
They're gorgeous. So Veronica, and maybe Jess or the Minister, how is the industry? What are your thoughts about how to make this go beyond July next year? So we've got this amazing campaign. It's going to be amazingly successful. And like everything, we're very good at making things go a long way in the seafood industry. So that's what we're all talking about now, is how do we leverage and make it go. But just thoughts, what can the people listening today think about? What can they do to help you? Obviously, join SIA. That's number one. And the second one would be, what can they do to make sure that we continue beyond next year?
So I will throw to Jess after this. My initial thoughts are from a structural perspective. So understanding the industry and understanding how our sectors are very strong. So within a sector and within a species sector, we're a very strong industry. We understand our product, we understand our supply chain within that sector. From my perspective, and again, creating a national sector marketing group is about having these conversations with the industry and getting better information in that way. But from the outset, I believe that a national marketing campaign will be most successful from years 2 to 5 if every sector is actually marketing its product under the banner of a Great Australian Seafood identity. And what we actually have then is a unique, versatile national marketing campaign. You have some sectors, and Ben's heavily involved in, like Love Australia Prawn and the prawn industry, who are very advanced in their marketing and have spent 7 years building their assets. We don't want to impact that. We want to support that. You've got Barramundi, who are very good at building their brand and have been doing a lot of work. There are other industries that maybe haven't focused on the domestic market as much. And for them, we want to give them a guide and actually a support in terms of heading down the marketing road. Because in the last 3 to 4 months, we've worked out how much effort and time it takes. So any assets we can provide from this campaign, we will actually do to support that. Jess, do you have something to add?
Not so much above and beyond what you've said, but more so echoing it. So, you know, as you've said, we do have a couple of areas in the industry which are incredibly advanced in terms of their marketing campaigns. So the wonderful work of Love Australia Prawns, the great work of Barramundi. But what we need to do is see the value in reinvesting in marketing campaigns into years 2, 3, and 4. And where we have a number of smaller sectors, it's about bringing them together under that Great Australian Seafood banner and helping to amplify their message with existing brand awareness and use of creative assets. So it's really about, you know, that same old a rising tide lifts all boats, but bringing everybody together and making sure that any of that work that we're doing has that one overarching way that it can all link back, and, you know, a little bit spent here and there by different sectors can all pull together under that one banner and create a really big campaign that maybe wouldn't have had that same reach or kind of brand growth otherwise.
So leading up to Christmas, Veronica, what are we going to see?
Leading up to Christmas, we have a huge push on seafood. So lobster, prawn, oysters, your big Christmas favourites, obviously being front and centre. Lots of messaging around Christmas. You know, it's the one time of the year, even with COVID, you can't ruin Christmas no matter what, but we also need that easy entertaining ideas. So lots of entertaining ideas and the recipes coming out. So look, it's obviously a really important time for the industry. It's a time when the supply chain is prepared for the increases in volume. And we'd like to be able to support our export markets as well at the moment. So lots of support for lobster, abalone, and anyone who needs it. So,
and just an observation, you know, with COVID, everyone's now cooking at home a lot more. And obviously, you know, Australia has done such an amazing job of eradicating this virus, which is just great. And so we are going to see more food service, but, you know, the ability to actually have people eating at home with Great Australian Seafood is something I suppose many of us have dreamed about for many, many years. So it's a great thing. I'm now going to ask you the $64,000 question to Jess, Veronica, and you get the last word, Minister. So what is your favourite easy as? Over to you, Jess.
Well, you can't get much easier than oysters, can you, Patrick? You just need to open it up and eat it straight away.
I love oysters. Veronica.
I have to say that my experience of abalone prior to this campaign process wasn't as ideal. I'd never done it myself well. And going through this process of creating this recipe and testing it at home, I am an absolute abalone fan now. It tastes fantastic if you follow our recipe. And I was really happy that we could actually combine abalone, which is something some people in the domestic market may not be familiar with something very familiar like a green curry. So that to me is my favourite asset out of this campaign. But I do love them all. And I'm a new abalone fan, so it's great.
And Jonno, the logo has Tasmania in it, which is
yes.
which is always a good sign. So,
yes,
Jonno,
yes.
what's your easy as?
Well, I like to break my gastronomical experiences into two parts, the cooking and the eating. The eating part I do really well. The cooking part, I like being the nation's worst wreck fisher. I'm also probably up there as one of the world's worst cooks, but I'm probably going to have to take it on notice and come back to you about which one is my favourite easy as. I haven't gone there yet, but I reckon next Sundown, when we have a report back, I'd love to give you an update on which one is my favourite easy as.
And I'd just like to thank everyone. And can I just also just congratulate you, Veronica, for the leadership, and you, Minister, for all the support. It sort of sends goosebumps up your spine when you think that this has finally happened, and your vision and thinking beyond tomorrow, and bringing everyone together under a greater banner. It's just amazing. I look forward to many, many years of talking about Great Australian seafood. I just think it's amazing. So congratulations to everyone. As Ben has put in the chat on the side, if you want to get access to the videos, it's all there. The website's there. Jess has done a great job. She's put in the info at seafoodindustryaustralia.com.au if you want to know more about it. And obviously go to that website, go to the YouTube site, share it with your friends, share it with everyone, get the message out. And I think if anybody's looking for information, I think Jess is all ears. I think she's just can't wait to hear your ideas and thoughts. So congratulations. Finally, to Marshall Betzel and the Queensland Seafood Marketing Association, as usual, love your work, guys. Thanks, Ben. Have a lovely night. Grab a beer and enjoy for the rest of the Monday night. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you.